Let's talk about how to create an array in R. The most straightforward way of creating an array in R is using the array function. The two main arguments of the array function are data and dim. Data is an argument that you use to supply the data you want to fill the array with. So you're going to give it a vector, and then it's going to fill in the array based on what values are in that vector. And then you also have the dim argument, which is a numeric vector that indicates the size of each dimension of your array. So if you have a three-dimensional array that you're trying to create, you would provide a vector with 3 dimensions. A two-dimensional array would have 2 dimensions, and so on. Similar to the matrix function, the array function fills the columns of each matrix before repeating the process for each element in the third or the fourth or the fifth dimension of your array. So the array function is going to fill in your arrays just like they would matrices, but then we repeat the process for the third dimension. Let's do an example of creating a 3-dimensional array. So we're going to create a 3 by 2 by 4 array below. And so we use the array function. We give it 24 elements because that's how many elements we need to fill our array. And then the first dimension of our array is going to have length 3. The second dimension will have length 2. And the third dimension will have length 4. So I create that array and then I print it. And you can see that the output looks a little different than matrices here. We have comma, comma 1 is the element in the first element of the third dimension of our array. Comma, comma 2 is what's in the second element of the third dimension of our array, and so on. And so we can see that each element of the third dimension contains essentially a matrix. And so the first matrix is the matrix, the 3 by 2 matrix that has the values 1 through 6. The second matrix in the second element of the third dimension has the values 7 through 12, and so on. Another way of creating arrays in R is to use the abind function in the abind package. The function is actually really complex and very powerful. We're not going to go into great detail about it. If you want more information, then you can run the question mark abind : abind in the console. In order to use the abind function, you need to first load the abind package. So make sure that you load the package or you install the package if you haven't already done so. And then what we're going to do here is we are going to take 2 matrices, 2 by 2 matrices. The first matrix has the values 1 through 4. The second matrix has the values 5 through 8. And we're going to stack them along the third dimension of the array that we want to create. So when we use the abind function in that way and then print the result, we can see that we have our 2 by 2 matrix, our first 2 by 2 matrix, in the first element of the third dimension. And then in the second element of the third dimension, we have the second matrix that we passed to the abind function. And if we decided to create a new array that was 2 by 2 by 2, we can actually combine 2 arrays together using the abind function. So I'm going to create a new array AB, which is obtained by binding A and B along the third dimension. So we use the abind function, we bind A and B, we print the result. And if we look at what we get exactly what we would expect if we bound our original array A with the second array B that we had just created. Lastly, we sometimes have an array that we don't know the dimension of. Maybe it's something we import from a file or it's sent to us by somebody else. If we want to know the dimensionality of an array, then we can use the dim function on that object. So in this case, we're going to look at the dimensionality of A. We already know that it's 2 by 2 by 2 based on the fact that we already created it. But if we do run the dim function on A, that's exactly what we see. The first dimension has length 2, the second dimension has length 2, and the third dimension has length 2.